Hey guys, welcome back to Project Bodybuilding. Back in with another video for my road to the 2024 Mr. Olympia series. Today we are going to be comparing two guys who love to compete and compete often. In this video, Tonio Burton will be facing off against Nathan Asha. Both guys have competed 3 times this year so far, so we have good versions to choose from. For Nathan, I just settled on his Dubai Pro version. He had a very good peak there, his conditioning was pretty good, but most importantly he was very full there. For Tonio, picking his version was a little more difficult. It came down to the Arnold Brazil and the New York Pro. He was more conditioned at the Arnold, but fuller at New York. I was just going to use the Arnold Brazil because I think a more conditioned Tonio works to his advantage, but there are literally just a handful of photos from that contest, so I had to combine the two versions. I don't like doing this, but it is what it is. And I wasn't about to use Tonio's third show, the Cali Pro, because the lighting was literally atrocious. So we will be using the 2024 Dubai Pro version for Nathan and pitting it against Tonio Burton using a combo of his 2024 Arnold Brazil and New York Pro packages. With all that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into today's video. Remember, if you guys like these types of videos, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe for more videos just like this one. We're starting out with a solid pose for each guy with the front double biceps. Now the biggest difference I noticed right off the bat when putting these slides together was the level of detail in some of these shots and more than others, and then the structures. Tonio is not short, contrary to what a lot of people think. He did have a stint in 212 and he is a smaller guy with a more narrow frame, but he honestly could be taller than Nathan. Nathan is on record saying he's about 5'7.5" and Tonio is somewhere around there. I've heard maybe 5'8", but Nathan just has the bigger structure. He has more width of course, and he is carrying more mass overall on that bigger frame. So it will be interesting to see if Tonio can out-detail his way to victory. In this first pose, we can see that Nathan is kind of threatening to overwhelm Tonio, but Tonio is holding his own. In the legs, both guys are pretty good, but Nathan is a little more separated, but Tonio's sweeps just look crazy on his smaller frame. He also doesn't have the major imbalance like Nathan does. It's pretty close here, but I like Nathan's detail a little more. And in the torso, I could almost go with Nathan. He has the wider lats, but they're high inserting, and although his waist is just as small as Tonio's, Nathan classically looks like he swallowed a ladder with that incredibly elongated torso. Tonio's lats are less than impressive, but overall throughout the torso and really throughout the entire physique, he is more detailed and harder. Look at those abs for example and contrast those with Nathan's complete lack of hardness through his entire midsection. And as for the arms, they're pretty similar. Nathan again has a big asymmetry because he tore one of his, but Tonio between both arms is slightly smaller. Overall, I really could go either way on this one. You could choose Nathan for the bigger structure, more overall size, or Tonio for the hardness and detail. I'm going with the former, so I am going with Nathan on this one. It's a coin flip though. I do like the bigger structure, and right now I can stomach the torso, pun fully intended. The front lat spread is a pretty interesting pose. You'd think that Nathan would coast on his structural advantage and probably have the better lats, but instead he is T-posing for us for lack of a better term. Seriously, with that long torso and his palm tree lats, he quite literally looks like the letter T. He's bigger than Tonio for sure, but his lats aren't wowing me at all. And instead I'm more focused on his odd structure instead of marveling at his advantage over Tonio. Speaking of Tonio, he looks a little weird. He looks a little bunched up because he is a narrow guy, but he is still less awkward to look at than Nathan. What's really surprising though is the fact that Tonio is actually winning the lats. Is he as wide as Nathan through the shoulders or through the lats? No, but at least his lats have taper and presence in this pose. Tonio also has a lot of roundness to his arms and delts and even the chest, although it does look a little bit awkward because he's narrow and the pecs just kind of sit there on his physique. However, I don't really like Nathan's pecs either. It's like someone stretched them out in Photoshop, but I guess he does have good thickness and details in the arms and delts. I could actually have him winning there to be honest. And as far as the lower body is concerned, this New York Pro version of Tonio is actually really incredible. He's very full and those quads are bursting full already from the jump with that incredible sweep. Honestly, with that fullness and sweep, his quads may actually beat the bigger Nathan, especially because Nathan is really only operating with one quad because again, that left one is noticeably undersized from the right. But the kicker for Tonio is the detail and separation. I vastly prefer Tonio's. He has that dry quality to his legs more so than Nathan, and his separation is probably a few percent better as well. This does not leave Nathan in a good place. I get it, he has more width than Tonio, so I was thinking I would just do a 2-point win here. But the more I look at Nathan, the more I'm just baffled that someone looks like this. I'm not even super pleased with Tonio's shape, but it sure as hell beats Nathan. And then when you add the lats in there in the lower body, now I do think Tonio's floor is 2 points. I see more people being unsettled by Nathan's physique and making this a 3-point win for Tonio, over more people giving Nathan the benefit of the doubt and rewarding his structural advantage. So the way I see it, I'm arguably still being gracious to Nathan by making this a 2-point win for Tonio. In the side chest, this really just does boil down to bigger is better. The side chest doesn't lend itself to smaller guys that thrive on conditioning like Tonio. He's solid and all, and yeah, he looks a bit harder and drier than Nathan, but I want to see the thickness here in every body part and of course a thick set of pecs. Nathan's side leg is a little bigger overall, and he is much more balanced between quad height and hamstring drop. His arm and delt are bigger and fuller than Tonio's, and his chest is as well. Tonio isn't even outright detailing him anywhere besides the side leg really, and I guess a little in the midsection, and that's just not enough. This is pretty straightforward, but it's not like Tonio is bad, he's just smaller. He still has everything. So it is going to be a solid 2-point win for Nathan, just not a clean sweep. The side chest may not have lent itself to Tonio, but the rear double definitely does because it's all about those details. Overall, Nathan is bigger than Tonio and wider in the back, but that's where his winning stops, and I really don't think the overall size advantage counts for that much. I want to look at the lower body for starters, and Nathan's hamstrings are just such a letdown. It's not just that he's soft back here, he lacks the detail for sure, but he's definitely more quad dominant. The back of his legs lack development, and so do his adductors. He has a massive gap between those thighs. Tonio is a lot more well-rounded here. Good sweep on the quads, way more developed and detailed hams, and the drier, more detailed glutes. And in the back, it's the same deal. But let's isolate the lower back for just a second because Tonio doesn't have a whole lot going on, but I will sure take that over Nathan's weird, lumpy lower back, but I digress. Moving on, Nathan's back looks pretty thin and 2D next to Tonio's much more shredded and 3D back. Even though Nathan has competed for longer than Tonio, it's like Tonio has the superior muscle maturity through the combo of thickness and detail. There isn't much to say here after that. All of Tonio's muscle groups are just rounder and more pronounced, and if you look down along his spine, you can see that jagged Christmas tree coming through. Nathan doesn't even win the arms and delts. He may be bigger in the delts, but his arms, especially the torn one, just look sad and deflated. I'll take Tonio's slightly smaller upper limbs based on his superior pop and separation. All in all, even though Tonio isn't exactly Ronnie Coleman, I think he can win this one with a perfect score. If you have Nathan winning this one, if you have him close even, that's just objectively wrong. He doesn't win anywhere. Let's quickly go over the next back pose because Nathan's situation barely improves. He's losing the lower body bigly again, and in the back, his only faint twinkling of a silver lining is the fact that he has the structural advantage over Tonio. Therefore, he is slightly wider in the lats. And sure, that does matter to some extent, it's the main thing we want, but Nathan doesn't lead by much here, and Tonio easily has the better overall back. He's much tighter and drier, just look at that vascularity, and his thickness is even showing itself here. Again, Nathan's back looks thin next to Tonio's. Tonio has the much thicker and rounder traps, and his lats are also really thick all the way down to their insertions. For what it's worth, he also has the taper over Nathan. He has that perfect V shape. This is another easy win for Tonio, and if you ask me, it's another 3-point win. I thought about 2 because Nathan does win width, but then I thought again, realized this is my video, and decided to give all the points to Tonio. The side tricep is teetering on being exactly like the side chest. They're both side poses, they both require a lot of thickness to a physique, but since the side tricep exposes the midsection, I've always felt that you need more details and more of that streamlined look in addition to size to be successful. In this scenario, neither guy has both of these things. For Tonio, he looks a little too streamlined, but that has its advantages. He has that trim and detailed midsection and more detail everywhere for that matter. And while we're at it, let's just look at Tonio's tricep compared to Nathan's. Tonio legitimately has more size than Nathan, and that's a key win for Tonio. As for Nathan, he looks really impressive yet again from a size perspective. His pecs are really full, his overall arm is thicker too, delt included, and yet again he wins the side leg because he's bigger and more balanced. But Nathan's midsection is also really full. There's nothing going on in the abs and the obliques, and he just looks a little too relaxed. In a weird way, he kinda looks fat to be honest. Tonio was right there to draw a stark contrast with a more elegant looking midsection. However, I do think Nathan does a little too much in the size department for Tonio to handle. At the end of the day, it's still bodybuilding, but honestly with his superior waist and details, this is actually a very close pose in my eyes. They're different, but close. Bigger does not automatically equal better, unlike in the last side pose. Shape is very important here, and Tonio has that and then some, so I could see him taking this one. For now though, I have Nathan winning the pose with 1 point. The abs and thighs is surprisingly just a meh pose for each guy. I couldn't actually decide a winner at first, but let's run through it so I can show you where I was getting hung up. In the quads, Nathan is solid, but this New York Pro version of Tonio just has insane quads. The lighting is a bit dark, but watch the footage I put at the end. He definitely had better separation than Nathan. And the sweep is just crazy. Tonio checks the thighs portion off of the pose easily, despite how good Nathan may be. Now in the abs, both guys are just okay. When you really look, Tonio's abs have a bit more separation both laterally and bilaterally. They have deeper crevices all the way way around them basically. Nathan's are really only separated laterally. So I would give Tonio a slight edge in the actual abs themselves, but they both have something going on in the midsection that I'm not a huge fan of. Tonio has a little roundness here, a lot like Dexter Jackson actually. Tonio in general is just so similar to him it's not even funny, but legitimately he does have a little roundness to his stomach. I don't think it's really anything besides genetic and posing things, but it's there regardless. Now Nathan has the love handle obliques though, which really throw off his taper. And while we're on the subject, you can actually throw in the upper body taper into Tonio's column. All in all, I do have Tonio here taking the pose, but it's only by 1 point. He won the quads for sure, and he did end up winning the abs, but not without a hitch. I'm sure some guys will have Nathan ahead here, but I'm preferring Tonio in both elements, but both guys have a little issue, so it's just going to be a small victory for Tonio. And finally, we've reached the most muscular, the final pose of the comparison. Nathan certainly starts out winning this one. He's the bigger guy for sure. But just how much can Tonio peel off from his margin? Well, I gotta be honest, not too much. No matter what variation of Tonio's you are looking at. In that hands class version, he is winning the legs. His legs are balanced with each other, Nathan's aren't. Tonio's sweeps are absolutely nutty, and he has the superior separation and hardness once again. Now that is half the body, so let's not discount that win, but is there anything else that Tonio wins? Unfortunately for him, no, there isn't. And that goes for either of his poses. The chest, arms, and delts on Nathan are very thick, very round, and actually pretty detailed. He is just outmassing Tonio really easily in all three of these major areas. From an overall perspective as well, Nathan has the width and overall impressiveness advantages, being the bigger man. I don't even think Tonio can really snag a surprise win in the midsection. They're both largely unremarkable. As of right now, Tonio can't and isn't really out detailing his way to victory on this one either. Nathan is winning everything except the legs, and even his are okay really besides the asymmetry. Overall, there's just much more thickness and depth to Nathan's physique throughout his entire body. And perhaps more importantly, he just has more mass. However, because Tonio did win the lower half of the body and is still very 3D and complete in this pose, Nathan is prevented from getting that clean sweep and instead will be finishing this comparison with a 2-point win. Now we're going to my second phase of judging. Here I take a look at the whole physique and judge based on 4 categories: shape, muscularity, conditioning, and flaws. Let's first start with shape. Both guys are fine, but I think more people are going to take offense with Nathan's proportions with the long torso, high lats, and all. Some people get over it. I kinda can go back and forth, but I don't think many people will find that level of discomfort over anything on Tonio's physique. He may be a bit narrow and his shape is just pretty average, maybe only slightly above, but with no major gripes, I'm going to give Tonio a 1-point win in the shape category. Let's continue on with 1-point wins by going to the flaws category next. Now these guys don't really suffer from any major flaws, however I do think Nathan has a few things I can nitpick. Nathan has that odd lumpy lower back, the torn bicep, and the quad asymmetry. Again, these are definitely nitpicks, so the score here isn't going to be drastic at all. But I want to reward Tonio for having a physique that is free from flaws like those, so he'll be walking away with another point here. Continuing with the Tonio wins, why don't we just head over to the conditioning category. Now from the front, Nathan was fine. I would say in the quads he was actually better in terms of separation compared to Tonio in quite a few poses. But the backside was absolutely no contest. Tonio was taking him to school in both halves of the body condition-wise. And overall, head to toe, Tonio just had a harder and drier appearance. Maybe not always separated, but definitely more dry. Now because Nathan was more separated in an area or two, I won't make this a 3-point win, although the argument is certainly there. But for now, this is just going to be a 2-pointer for Tonio. And finally, we have the muscularity category, and I really debated on this one. Nathan was just the bigger dude. He carries more muscle than Tonio, plain and simple. But just as important, Tonio was more complete for sure. To me, they're on even ground. Nathan is the bigger man, but had gaps. And Tonio, as complete as he is just smaller. Both matter to me a whole lot in terms of creating this category called muscularity. It's an umbrella term. I think this can be a tie because of this. No one will be receiving points in this one, and that concludes the overall physique categories round. We've reached the end of the comparison now, and here are the final scores. Tonio won today's comparison with 67.7 points to Nathan's 32.3. Overall, this is a pretty standard victory. Most average comparisons fall between 30 and 70 points, so this was a well-rounded comparison, but Tonio was a fairly clear winner. Now what's interesting is how Tonio won. He really didn't win through the poses. Now he did win more points in the posing round, but they were split on poses 4-4. And really I could have given Nathan the abs and thighs. I almost did. And at that point, Tonio would have still won the round, but with only 3 points to Nathan's 5. What really helped Tonio out there was him being complete and limiting Nathan's margins in all the poses Nathan won. And of course, Tonio was greatly helped by running up the score in the back poses, which was definitely deserved. So even if Tonio didn't end up tying this in terms of poses won, he still would have won the round. Tonio also ran up a score even more in the overall physiques category round. He's just a well-rounded guy and it showed. Nathan may have been bigger, but because of Tonio's superior completeness and 3D roundness, he cut Nathan off in the only category Nathan had a shot at winning, that being muscularity. Then Tonio got a larger larger win in the conditioning round and small wins in the last 2. Tonio can't always beat bigger guys, sometimes bigger is just better, that's bodybuilding. But not this time. In my eyes, Tonio had decent shape, probably better in most people's eyes, in my eyes at least. He had that 3D effect to make up for him being smaller. He's filling out that smaller frame quite well at this point actually. Nothing is missing from his physique and he had a fantastic back as well. But most importantly, he had those details in a lot more places that Nathan didn't. Now Nathan has won a ton of pro shows and maybe the judges would be more favorable to him because of that. And he certainly does deserve our respect. But is he better than Tonio? Based on what I saw today at this point in time with these versions, I say no. Tonio is the winner of today's comparison. Well, that's going to do it for today's video. How did you guys see this one? Do you have Tonio winning with that completeness and detail, or Nathan with his superior size and structure? Let me know down in the comments. And if you guys are liking this series, be sure to hit the like button on this video and subscribe for more. By the way, if you guys are looking for any high quality supplements and want to support the channel, be sure to check out Arms Race Nutrition. Then at checkout, be sure to use my code Project10 for 10% off your entire order. That's code Project10 at armsracenutrition.com. Finally, with all that said, I want to thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.
Getting like, see ya.